guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at JustKnowTweets and at SheKnowsArsenal. Welcome to another episode of the Daily Download. We're going to be going through all of Arsenal's transfer news here live today. Welcome. There's 125 of you guys already here. I do apologize for being late. I was on the football terrace, but I'm here now to talk just to you guys about Arsenal. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. So today what we're going to be talking about is the main part of this is going to be around Raphinha and where we're actually at with that transfer. There's a lot of moving parts here and a lot of news has come out over the last maybe hour or so. So I'm going to update you guys on everything there because there's a lot of moving parts and we need to talk about it all. But Raphinha is looking decent. It's looking like something that could potentially happen at this point. We're also going to talk about where we're at with Gabriel Jesus as well as Tielemans and the compromise that needs to come from maybe both sides for that deal to get done. There's also, the news about Daniel Ballard and his deal him signing for Burnley, which is an interesting deal that's getting done. Nuno Tavares is also looking like he might be going to Marseille on loan, which probably opens up the opportunity for Arsenal to push a little bit harder for Martinez. And yeah, I think that's about it. It's a lot of things to get through, but we will do it in probably about an hour or so. So there's 160 of you guys in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's go ahead and get started with Raphinha. So this morning, wake up, there's news of a bid being either prepared, a second bid either being prepared or already going in, depending on what reports you read. It's either already went in or Leeds are discussing it and considering it. The headline is Leeds are considering an offer for Raphinha of 70 million euros, which is 55 million euros plus 15 million in add-ons, 60 million pounds in total. And it is not from Barcelona. The English club has grown tired of waiting, which would signify that that's us. And that's coming from Gabriel Jesus, who is a little bit closer to Barcelona than anybody else. And the unknown club is Arsenal. That's who we know it is. Arsenal are tired of waiting and they want to go ahead and push the deal through. Now, I thought what was also interesting is that Leeds have also had a bid knocked back for a winger named Otavio, who I believe is at Porto. I may be getting that wrong, but they had a 30 million euro bid rejected for Otavio, but they're expected to make another that's equal to his release clause. That came from Zach Lowy, who is very tapped into everything that's happening for Portugal. So at the same time that a second bid for Raphinha has gone in, Leeds are also looking for a replacement in Otavio, which would signify that they're close to maybe getting what they want for Raphinha. Now, the other part of this deal is what's going on with, I think, what would be considered our main competitors at the moment, which would be Spurs. Now, you're probably saying oh, I think it's probably Barcelona. But Barcelona at this point have not come up with any bids. And to what I've read is that because they're looking to pursue Dembele and to try to get him to resign, that they're prioritizing that over spending the money on Raphinha, and they have other priorities. So in the last hour, Spurs have kind of sped up negotiations for Richarlison. And in the coming days, they'll be putting in a bid. And that's coming from Raisa, who works for Goal Brazil. And she's very, very reliable. She's actually been pretty much on the pulse for Gabriel Jesus and Raphinha and Richarlison this entire summer. So, I mean, it's looking good unless Barcelona, for some reason, can come up with almost 70 million pounds worth of money for Raphinha. It looks like he could potentially be coming to Arsenal. I think journalists close to Arsenal are keeping it tight and really trying to make it seem like Arsenal are really working hard on it, but it's a difficult deal just in case something were to break down. But they're not as like out there and confident as I think they were with Vlahovic. I think they're keeping it a lot tighter, which is a good thing. It limits damage just in case things don't go well. But it's looking good. It's looking good with the second bid going in, Leeds looking for a replacement and looking like they're going to put in a second bid for that replacement, and also Spurs looking elsewhere, I think is a good indication of him potentially coming to Arsenal. So Raphinha is looking good, you guys. Like, I think that's obviously we're overpaying for him. Like, I want to be clear that I do think that we're overpaying for him. I think Raphinha is probably worth about 45 million max, and we'd be overpaying by a significant amount. But for Leeds, that's what they're worth to him, or what he's worth to them. And they're selling to another Premier League club, so they know we have the money. So we were never going to get him for cheap. And so I do think it's a transformational type signing. I do think he's somebody that can go up a couple more levels at a better club, like Arsenal. And so he's somebody that I do think we have to go ahead and get over the line. Never thought that Gabriel Jesus would be enough. Like, he definitely was never going to be enough. We needed something else. We needed another more experienced attacker. Remember, I kept saying that over and over again. Experienced attacker needs to come in. We lost a lot of experience in Aubameyang and Lacazette, so we needed to kind of reshuffle the front line a little bit. And I think what Raphinha does, and he gives you that experience, but he also gives you, he's also somebody that could potentially get better because he's not so far along in his career where this is pretty much where he could stop. But where he is right now brings us up a couple levels, which is good. What he also does is he puts pressure immediately on Bukayo Saka and Martinelli. And I love them, but they need pressure as well. They're very good young players, but they're nowhere near where they could be. And having competition will help that. Look at the levels that Mane went up to when Luis Diaz came in. He got better because he knew his spot was under threat. And so I think we've lacked a lot of that over the past 2 seasons. We just haven't had competition for places. So Raphinha is definitely some type of signing I want to see get over the line. I do think that he can go to another level. And yeah, this is a statement signing, I think, for Arsenal more than Gabriel Jesus, because Gabriel Jesus is a big signing and probably would be considered a marquee signing for Arsenal at this point. But Raphinha is a player that I don't think anybody really thought we could get. So if we could get him over the line, I think it's a good indication of where we're going. So that's for me. That's where I am with this. But I do think, we're in a decent position right now. TJ said apparently Arsenal submitted the 70 million bid. Yep, exactly. Clever Dan says, Jess, you deserve all this success coming your way. Keep up the good work, Mama. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. TJ Emerson is saying that Otavio does play for FC Porto, which, again, like, Porto would be swimming in it if they were to get the release clause for Otavio paid by Leeds. They also have sold Vitinha to PSG and Fabio Vieira to us. So that's a lot of money coming Porto's way. And they did sell Luis Diaz as well. So that's a lot of money going to Porto, by the way. Hakum said, I feel a lot better about going for Raphinha if the Tielemans deal was done. We'll talk about kind of where we're at with that deal in just a couple of minutes. Matt G says, is our second bid for Raphinha been confirmed? I think it has been confirmed by somebody, but it came from Spanish media first. So, but it feels like it's coming from us. But I'll look it up and see if I can find a more credible link, if that's what you guys need. Orpheus says, hear me out. Arsenal should sign Lisandro, keep Nuno, and sell Tierney. Lisandro and Nuno is a better balance for defensive inverted fullback and attacking fullback, both better than KT on the ball. So I do want to wait a little bit to have the Lisandro Martinez conversation. It's a really important signing for me. Personally, I think that this is the one. But what I'll say about what people are kind of forgetting about Tierney, which I don't think gets enough credit, is the intangibles that Tierney brings, his leadership, and him being somebody that you can kind of rely upon to give 110% and understands what the club is about and things like that. And so I don't necessarily feel like it's a good time to get rid of a more experienced leadership figure in the team when you've already lost Aubameyang and Lacazette, you know, and have a young player there that needs development and is very raw. So I do agree with what you're saying in terms of like Nuno has all the physical tools to become something very scary in the future. But right now, I do think he's actually better suited to go out on a loan and, see what he becomes. But I don't think it's the right time to sell the experience and the leadership of Kieran Tierney. And I do think that we also forget how good Tierney is. It's just he's no longer our sole outlet on the left-hand side. So I think there's a lot of recency bias here and a little bit of like, I'm just mad that Kieran Tierney got injured, so I want him gone. But I don't think it's the right time to get rid of experience right now, and replace him with somebody who's so raw. Because if Lisandro Martinez was to get injured, I do still think you'd have issues with Nuno. So that's kind of my take on that one. So yeah, let's see. There's 400 and almost 450 of you guys in here. So like the video, subscribe to the channel. But that's pretty much where we are, with Raphinha. So we'll see what happens with that moving forward. So moving forward with kind of like where we are with Gabriel Jesus to kind of wrap that up. It looks like 220 pounds per week looks like the base for Gabriel Jesus. David Ornstein has said like Gabriel Jesus's most likely destination would be Arsenal, but the deal is not quite done, which I think, there's a lot of in the know type people that are trying to jump the gun and say that things are done. It's probably 99% done, but it's probably not all the way done. Probably just dotting the I's and crossing the T's and things like that. But I feel every day that goes by, I feel more and more confident that Gabriel Jesus is coming to Arsenal. Spurs kind of talking heads, their versions of David Ornstein are coming out, like the likes of Alistair Gold, and saying Spurs will not try to hijack Arsenal's move for Gabriel Jesus, which in layman's terms basically means that they know that Gabriel Jesus doesn't want to come to them anymore. I wouldn't really call it like a rejection, but the deal is just too far along, and Gabriel Jesus and Arsenal and Manchester City are all kind of in agreement that that's the place that he's going to. So there's really no intervening at this point. And even though they tried to jump in at the last minute, it's not happening. So they're backing away from it and saying that they don't have as much interest, which we know that they did have a lot of interest. We just were kind of ahead of the game, and this is where Gabriel Jesus wants to be. So with every day that goes by, knowing that the fee has been agreed with Manchester City, that the salary and wage package is being confirmed with Gabriel Jesus, I do think that this deal is getting done. I still see that there's quite a bit of reluctancy around him because of, he's not necessarily prolific, and a lot of Arsenal fans were looking for a number 9 that was going to have more of that, what they would call presence in the box, somebody a lot bigger, and have more aerial threat per se. But we talked about this yesterday on the show. If you guys didn't watch it, I did a show with James B from AFTV, and we kind of did a tactical analysis of what Gabriel Jesus and Raphinha and Fabio Vieira could give to Arsenal, and what were their kind of strengths and weaknesses and things like that. And Gabriel Jesus is more of a predictable outcome than I think the other strikers are that are out on the market, especially now that Haaland and Nunez are kind of gone. The rest of the players that are out there are going to cost a lot, but they aren't sure to work. And I do think Arsenal are in a position at the moment where they need the most predictable outcome that they can get, because we can't afford to have a player that flops. We can't afford to have another Pepe. We can't afford to have, a player come and it doesn't quite work. And you saw that reports came out about Scamacca that the coaching staff, which this coaching staff includes Mikel Arteta, that they were not really convinced about the profile, that he was so different than Gabriel Jesus that they didn't feel like it would work. So Arsenal wanting to build their attack, which David Ornstein did kind of confirm that they want to build their attack around Gabriel Jesus. If that's the case, then we just kind of need to go with it, I think, at this point. That doesn't mean that in the future we won't go after that more physical, dominant striker. But at the moment, that choice isn't really there. I don't think there's anybody out there that's like we know for sure is going to work out. And so instead of going after somebody like a Oshiman that very well could end up being someone like a Pepe, or maybe those goals don't translate to the Premier League, or he needs some time to adapt. We have somebody like Gabriel Jesus that hits the ground running, and we can start off our season well. And we have, like I said, a more predictable outcome. So again, I won't sit here and say that I don't have I do have a clear bias towards Gabriel Jesus. I think he's a great player and he'll work out great for us. I think he's a perfect fit. But I do understand a little bit of the reluctancy around not getting a traditional number 9, especially when I think a lot of people were very excited about the idea of Vlahovic coming in. I think that was a big part of that as well, because before we went for him, I think a lot of people felt like we needed a better version of Lacazette. And when we went after Vlahovic, that definitely was a different profile. So I completely understand that. But, I think Gabriel Jesus is who we will see if the deal because I do think the deal gets done. So I think that's kind of just where we're at. Hakoum says it's funny how we're trying to copy the City motto with cutbacks and 5 left footers, cams, while City and Liverpool just signed 2 target men. Well, the thing is that they already have the rest of the team built. We don't have our first team built. They're kind of in a position where they can continue on, because don't get it twisted, City and Liverpool can still play the way that they've been playing over the last 4 or 5 seasons. They just added something else. We haven't even begun to build or complete plan A. So I think to change the style that we've been building towards for the last 2 seasons, because City and Liverpool decided to add something else on top of plan A, I think would be silly. This is what we've been building towards this season. If Lacazette hadn't fallen off a physical cliff, I don't think we'd be that worried about the Gabriel Jesus thing. So, City and Liverpool going after bigger central strikers doesn't necessarily mean that they won't play the way that they've been playing before. Still have Firmino there. You could still play Foden and Kevin De Bruyne and all those players as false 9s. So, and City are also looking at João Felix, who we know can play false 9s. So I wouldn't say that we need to switch it now because that's what they're doing. I would say finish building what we've been building and then see what we need from there. Let's see. Hakoum says, I'm happy with Jesus. Don't get it twisted. I hear you. Orpheus says, wouldn't even class Nunez or Holland as target men. Fair enough. One Nation says Arsenal need an Olivier Giroud type player. I get that a lot of people do feel that way. I do get that. Denzel Roberts says Arteta doesn't want just a striker in Gabriel Jesus, but someone who can help build up play and put in assists. Yeah, Gabriel Jesus is very good in terms of technical quality and things like that. So we know what he can bring. Stefan, what I'll say is that Zaki Lowy is very reliable in terms of what he knows for Portuguese football. And what he said is that Otavio's release clause is 40 million euros until July 15th. It will return to 60 million after that. So if Leeds, and he's also saying that Leeds are expected to make another bid that will equal his release clause. So that 60 million euro clause actually is not valid until after July 15th. So I'm sure that Leeds will get the 40 million in there before that. Let's see what else you guys are saying. Semi DG says, we got our future target number 9, Eddie Nketiah. I'm not sure if you're being funny there or what, but fair enough. Stefan says, I'm not sure I want us to go down the route of having an immobile target man that can only play in one position. I think we need to make the most out of each signing that we get. So most of the signings that you're looking at can play multiple positions. We know Raphinha can play on both sides. We know Gabriel Jesus can play across the front 3. We know Lisandro Martinez can play 3 different positions. So I think what we're doing is if we're going to pay top dollar for some of these players, we want to make sure we get bang for our buck. So we're going to get players that can play in multiple positions, so we can cover a lot of ground here. If you were to spend 100 million on Oshiman, he can only play one position and you still have other holes. So I do understand the thought process, but I also understand why some people are looking at that target man gap. I'm not saying it's not there. I'm just saying, like, what is our priority? FTL Gunnar Craig, I don't know if you saw yesterday, but on yesterday's show, I did show everybody that I did get your scarf. I love it. It's so cute, and I can't wait to wear it. Obviously, it's like 100 degrees here in LA, so I won't wear it now, but when it gets a little bit colder, I will wear it. So thank you so much for sending that. Craig says, makes sense for Jesus and Raphinha to play together since they've been playing together, since they'll be playing together in the World Cup this year. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be so interesting to see. I think the Brazilian players, uh, there's a big, like, they're top of the market. Like, that those are the type of players that everybody wants. Everybody wants Brazilian players. It's so crazy how in demand they actually are. The likes of Richarlison are going to go for 60 million. Antony is probably going to go for 60 million or something like that from Ajax. Raphinha is going to be going for 60 million. Gabriel Jesus going for 50 something million. I mean, I also think Brazilian national team sidebar have a very good chance of winning the World Cup. So that'll be really interesting to see what happens with that. But I would imagine that having so many Brazilian players in your team, South American in general, because even I think Argentina have a very good chance as well, it could also be to the detriment of Arsenal, because if they go really far into the tournament, and we know that just a week after the final, the Premier League starts back. So that's where that strength and depth is really going to need to be, like, there, the likes of Emil Smith Rowe, somebody like that. Like, if he doesn't make the England squad, that's where he'll be a big help to us, especially like up top, because if Brazil go far, if Argentina go far, who knows when we'll get some of our players back. I mean, that even includes like Gabriel, and Martinelli. So it's crazy. So yeah, it's really one of those where it's like, I love it that the players are so in demand, and they would be like, there was a time where none of our players played internationally. Like, it was for a while, like even Saka was the only one playing, like, for one of the bigger international sides or whatever. And now it's going to be like the entire team. So that could work to your advantage, but it could also work to the detriment, especially when the World Cup is mid-season. So we have to see how that works out. But those are kind of like the deets on Gabriel Jesus right now. It looks really close. David Ornstein has said, at the very least, it looks like Arsenal is his most likely destination, but it's not done yet. So I wouldn't be looking for any here we goes or any, cryptic announcement videos this week. I would say we probably have still like another week or so before we get something concrete, but it looks like it's going to get done, which I really do like. Now, the next thing I do want to talk about is just some other like kind of side things going. Well, actually, we'll talk about Tielemans first, because a lot of people are talking are a little bit. I do think there's a little bit of nervousness, like what's going to happen with the Tielemans deal, because it hasn't gotten done yet, and it was one of the priorities. It was said to be one of the priorities, and then the likes of Fabrizio Romano keep saying over and over again that like Tielemans, like there's still negotiations going, but we're focusing on Raphinha and Gabriel Jesus. Now, I have to be honest, I don't really believe that. I don't think it's necessarily like we have to work on these deals and get them done and we put Tielemans at a halt, because I would imagine that a deal that could be somewhere between 25 and 30 million would be a little bit easier to get done. What I do think is that there's a difference in valuation between Leicester and Arsenal right now. And so Arsenal have put out the usual cooling interest and things like that in order to put more pressure on Leicester, because until they get the money for Tielemans, I don't think they really have the ability at the moment to reinvest and to go ahead and bring in their replacement. And it's already been said that he's not going to sign a new deal. Ben Jacobs basically confirmed that talks are ongoing, and Arsenal has done a lot of legwork in the Tielemans deal, so much so that it's unlikely that they'll walk away. The problem is that there's about £5 million difference in valuation. So we're talking 25 million versus 30 million. So maybe it'll take a sale and Arsenal will come up, or maybe it'll take some compromise from Leicester and Leicester will come down, but it's still there. Like, it's still there in the ether. It's definitely something that I do think Arsenal will still go back to. I want to also point out that there's some light rumors around Sambi Lokonga potentially going to Burnley on loan. Not confirmed yet, but it's going to be a waiting it out type of situation. I don't think a player goes from such a high priority to nothing at all that quickly. I think Leicester and Arsenal are playing cat and mouse. I think, Adu is trying to negotiate hard, and we know Leicester, they haven't gotten where they are by being stupid. They know how to get maximum dollar for their players, and losing Tielemans for a small amount is going to really kind of hurt them a little bit. So I do think they'll try to squeeze as much out of it as possible. But Arsenal have done too much work on the Tielemans deal, I think, to walk away now. And I have a hard time believing that Arsenal don't see midfield as a place to upgrade. I know Arteta loves Xhaka, but he ain't crazy. I know he's not crazy. He knows we need to upgrade that midfield, and Tielemans would be a good option to do that. Until I see somebody say Arsenal are out of the race for Tielemans or another team has put in a bid for Tielemans, I am relatively relaxed on the Tielemans thing. I think once Raphinha and Gabriel Jesus calm down and maybe we sell a player or two, we'll be fine. So let's see what you guys are saying here. Lionite says loaning out Lokanga makes no sense. Let me know why you think that. Tony says there's no pressure on AFC to get Yuri Tielemans done. LCFC holding out to get maximum dollar, both playing chicken. Elliot Roberts says Tielemans is never going away. A deal has to be done and Leicester know it. Wink, 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 wink. Troy says Tielemans will be ours in the end. HICM 1 of 12 says we need to get all of our priority deals done before we go back in for Tielemans. So do you view Gabriel Jesus and Raphinha of a bigger priority than Tielemans? Let me know. Homer says, do you think we play 3 at the back now that Saliba is here? And do you think Pepe is going to stay with Tielemans and Marquinhos coming? So I don't think we'll see a back 3. I think some Arsenal fans do want to see a back 3 because then that would open up an immediate starting position for Saliba, but I think he's going to have to work to get into the side. Not saying that he can't, and like White is like way better than him, but what I'm saying is it's White's spot to lose, and Saliba will have to use the minutes that he does get to kind of stamp his authority onto that position. I don't sense a move to a back 3. I think Arteta's been very unwavering and maybe a little bit rigid in terms of like he's been decisive. We're a 4-3-3 type team. We're moving towards it, and we've been moving towards it for 2 seasons now. So to go back on it now, just because Saliba is potentially in the team, to give him some minutes because Arsenal fans are afraid that if we don't give him minutes, he won't stay. I don't really see that as being likely. Now, would I like to see Arsenal or Arteta be a little bit more flexible when it comes to his formation, especially when we're away from home at difficult places? Yeah, I would. And would Saliba allow you to have a very strong back 3 next season if you were to play that way? Absolutely. But do I foresee that being the plan? No, not at all. I would say we're mostly a 4-3-3 team until I see otherwise. And in regards to the Pepe is going to stay with Tielemans and Marquinhos coming, I think Pepe will go. I don't think that there's especially if you're looking to bring Raphinha in, he's going to go. He already got a new agent, and that would signify that he's looking for a move. Now, whether or not there's any interest in Pepe, that really is the question. And we haven't seen anything as of yet, but I would imagine Pepe goes. And Marquinhos, I think that he's going to go out on a loan. That would be my initial feeling on that. There's about 600 of you guys in here, which is amazing. I think that's the most I've ever had on a solo show, which is just crazy. You guys smash the likes. Like, I love that. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I do really appreciate it. Now, moving away from Tielemans, just some quick news on maybe some potential outgoings. Let's talk about Daniel Ballard. I believe he's the Northern Ireland international, who's said to be kind of like highly regarded. A lot of people really like him. I have to be honest, I haven't seen much of him, but what I will say is that I like the deal that we've potentially done with Burnley. And I'm just looking for the little tweet here. Let me just pull up my bookmark. Just give me 2 seconds, you guys. Okay, so Daniel Ballard signs for Burnley. Like it's in advanced stages. It's been confirmed by Peter O'Rourke and also Gunner Blog. And so Arsenal intend to insert a clause into the deal which would grant them the opportunity to match future bids from prospective buyers. Sorry, guys. And what I would say about this is that like Daniel Ballard's probably not going to get any playing time at Arsenal, and at Burnley, which is they'd be in the championship next season. Um, would be a good opportunity for him. I know he was out on loan. I forget where he was at. It'll come to me. But he was already out on loan at Millwall, and he did well there. So now stepping up to a team like Burnley would be a good step for him. Now, I know there's some people that are like, oh my gosh, he's never going to play. He's not going to play for Arsenal next season. So the best thing that we can do is figure out a way to move him on so that he can get the playing time. But the most important part about this is inserting that clause, a buyback clause, is really, really, I think, important, because Arsenal haven't been doing that. They haven't done smart things for a while. And so if, the chance that Daniel Ballard becomes some crazy good center back, and let's say like a Leicester or a Leeds come in for him, we would have like basically the opportunity to match the bid and bring him in. And so I like that. For me, I really do like us being smart and inserting certain clauses into, because then it makes it feel better that we're getting rid of players, because ultimately sometimes you can't really tell whether or not a player is going to be really good or not until like a couple years on. And also, it's all about timing. For Daniel Ballard right now, coming through at Arsenal is not good timing. We have Saliba, White, Gabriel. There's just a lot of competition in the center back positions. So for Arsenal, it's our best option is to sell him. Now, I don't know what the fee is. It wasn't listed yet. But let's say we get 5 to 10 million for Daniel Ballard, and then if he were to become a world beater, we could potentially get him back. That is smart business, and that's something that I haven't seen from Arsenal in a long time. I think the way that we've operated in this window thus far has shown that there is some competency there. And I was harsh before. I felt like it was valid based on some of the things that we've done, but it feels like Arsenal are learning, and that's smart to me. So Daniel Ballard looks like he's on his way to Burnley, and so next season I do look forward to seeing what he does there. And I guess he would be replacing Tarkowski, who I can't really remember if he's where he's going, but he's going to another club in the Premier League, I think. So yeah. Denzel says, when was the last time we sold a player with a clause of any kind? I don't know. And that's really the point there, right? Is that like we haven't been smart before, and it feels like we're doing things a little bit smarter this time around. Usopp's Rubber Band says they have a sell-on clause on Ballard as well. Blue says Ballard is a good CB, but not good enough for Arsenal. Let's see what you guys are saying. Tarkowski is going to Everton. So yeah, he would be replacing Tarkowski. Makes a lot of sense. Also, maybe the link with Vincent Kompany also maybe helps that a little bit as well, because him and Arteta are, I think, I wouldn't say they're close, but I would say that they have a relationship. M says Raphinha and Saint Maximin won't need Saka or Smith Rowe anymore. Not sure I really agree with that. But yeah, good deal. I think it's nice. We'll see what happens with that. But it's only 2 million. Okay, you guys. I wouldn't say it's such poor business, you guys. Like I do think that like if he had played in the Premier League or something like that, I think I would think that, but he's still like a really young player, and so 2 million with a buyback clause for me is not that bad. But yeah, there you go. Now let's move on to Nuno Tavares. This is really important, Nuno Tavares, because so let's start from the beginning. That originally, like maybe like a week ago, he was linked to Atalanta, and there's this thing that came out that Arsenal were looking for either like a dry loan, or Atalanta could buy him for 40 million euros right now. which is basically like a buyout clause. Like it's not really, because it can't just be activated at any point, but the idea is the same. We're not willing to part with this player just yet. We want him to develop, either with us or somewhere else. But if you want to buy him now, which would mean that we wouldn't get the opportunity to see who else could bring him in or who else would pay for him, you have to pay a premium for us not to see. And I like that. I think that's also very smart, because Nuno Tavares, I think, as frustrating as he's been for Arsenal, and how, as much as I think he's not a good fit for Arsenal at the moment, I think he's more raw than bad. And what I mean by that is that I think in the right system, in the right league, with the right type of coaching, he's a good player. Maybe not amazing, but a good player. And there's enough teams in Europe that play with a 3/5 back that like those types of power and pace wing backs, that if he takes one season on loan somewhere in France or in Serie A, he could be worth between 15 to 25 million. And I'm saying that conservatively. You see the likes of, like, Dumfries and these types of guys. These types of players are really like in demand in Europe. Maybe not for a team that's a back four, but a team that's a back five/back three. I mean, look at what their Spurs are going to pay for Dejed Spence. I don't think he's significantly better than Nuno Tavares, but they're going to have to pay 20 million for him. So I would say, yeah, like, we would probably want a loan with an option, for whatever amount, and then let him get seen by some other teams, and then see what people are willing to offer us for Nuno Tavares. Because I don't think he's a bad player, and he has those types of physical tools, like, Dumfries, like Alphonso Davies, that are very, very high in demand for teams that like to play that way. So I think that's a smart thing to do. Now, Marseille are interested in taking Nuno Tavares on loan, and it looks like something that's likely and advancing. I think that's a good move as well. As much as I'm not a big fan of Guendouzi, I do think Marseille have done a really good job at helping develop the likes of Guendouzi and Saliba. So I think he would be in quote unquote good hands. But the most important part about this is that I think Nuno Tavares potentially going on loan to Marseille opens the door for us to bring in Lisandro Martinez. And this is the deal that I think is a real game changer for us. And I know that it's not Raphinha and it's not Gabriel Jesus, but I think this guy is a straight up baller. Like, I think he's so good on the ball in particular, but off the ball, he's also a really reliable defender. And he's done it, if you look at clips online, he has played against the likes of Haaland and Nunez in the Champions League and has done really well. So all of that, like, but he's short, but he's small. He's been able to play well against those types of, that type of opposition. There's also compilations of him playing against, I think, Chelsea as well. So we know he's not a slouch. Like, there'll be some adaptation, but he's not shit. Like, he's good. And what he can give you on the ball in that left kind of midfield area is something that we just don't have in our team. The left side of our team, I think, is less ball playing than the right. When you look at the likes, like Odegaard likes to float to the right, and also Ben White likes to float to the right. Tomiyasu's pretty good on the ball. We don't have that on the left-hand side, not with Nuno, not with Tierney, and not really with Gabriel. So we need to kind of even that out. Lisandro Martinez would help us in the midfield. So if Thomas Partey got injured, you would have somebody to step in as a DM. If Gabriel were to get injured, you have somebody there. And if Tierney were to get injured, you'd have somebody there. Hot take, I think Lisandro Martinez comes in and eventually displaces Kieran Tierney. I have this weird feeling that Mikel Arteta wants to play with two inverted fullbacks, which allows your 4-3-3 to really get cooking. That's especially if you don't have the three in the middle are not runners. So like with Liverpool, they have players that can run. They have a traditional CDM. They play more of a 4-2-3-1 than anything else. With City, they play with two inverted fullbacks. Kyle Walker doesn't do as much box-to-box type running anymore. And so you have kind of like that barrier that allows you to lock teams in, and then your eights can kind of do their thing, and you can squeeze the pitch. And I think that that's what Arteta really wants to do. I don't think Lisandro Martinez is coming in to just be a backup. You're not going to spend 40 million on a backup like that. He's going to come in and he's going to play games. When you watch him on the ball, that's exactly what Arteta needs for his system. You need more playmakers in your back line because essentially your back line ends up being your first line of playmaking in your 4-3-3 when you want to dominate the ball. So I think this is such an important signing, and I've been watching it very, very closely with Lisandro Martinez because it's just perfect. You know, a lot of people were like, Zinchenko is perfect. I think Lisandro Martinez is a better option for us. I think Lisandro Martinez covers more of the positions that we need covered because Gabriel needs cover. He does. He needs cover. You know, he's going to be a big part of next season, and so he's going to need somebody that can step in and also push him. Tierney, we know, is crocked. He's going to get injured, so we need somebody there. And I think this is a much better option even than like the Aaron Hickey situation as well, because he's a kid. Sandro Martinez is 24 years old, ready to step up. So the most recent kind of report on Lisandro Martinez, and I'll read it to you guys. It's coming from David Ornstein. I don't know what he was on. Oh, also, I'll tell you guys this now, that Marseille approached Arsenal to see if they were willing to sell William Saliba permanently, and the response from Arsenal is no, which we kind of already knew. Saliba is going to stay. I think at this point, we all kind of have come to that reality. So this is coming from David Ornstein. He was on Haters TV. He said, Lisandro Martinez is a firm target for Arsenal. He's a player Mikel Arteta wants to sign. That interest will not drop, even though our bid was rejected. As things stand, I think Arsenal are the most probable destination for Martinez, who is said to be keen on the move. So, yeah, this is a signing that, like, this and the Tielemans signing to me are so important because he helps with the midfield, and Tielemans would also help move Xhaka out of that position, which I think is so important. But yeah, loving the Lisandro Martinez thing, need it, you know, badly. He's the one. That's the signing. I've always really liked him a lot. You know, I think I never even thought we would be linked to somebody like this. Not like he's so out of our league or anything like that. I just never would have thought, you know, we would go after somebody like that. And he's very, very good on the ball. That's all I'm going to say about that. Like the types of playmaking that he can do from a deep position is just like what a midfielder would be able to do. And that's something that you just need. So yeah, and I think what we've seen with Ben White, which is not a criticism of Ben White, but I do think that people overplayed his ability on the ball in terms of passing. His passing range for me is good, but it's nowhere near Lisandro Martinez. Like it's nowhere near. Ben White is more of a dribbler out of the back type of center back, not really like a phenomenal passer. Lisandro Martinez is a phenomenal passer from the back line. It's just it's different gravy. John P says, I saw him going to Madrid, Ramos replacement. One Nation said Arsenal desperately need to sell Lucas Torreira to raise funds. I'm not sure if desperately, because we're making a lot of moves without actually having to sell. So I think there's money there, but Lucas Torreira does need to be sold. Yusuf said, you know what, we have the third best pool of players behind City and Liverpool. I would say that there's maybe a lot more players that are interested in Arsenal's project than the fans can see. You know, I don't think we can get the likes of Mbappe or anybody like that. But what I will say is that Lisandro Martinez, also linked to Manchester United, Gabriel Jesus linked to Chelsea and Spurs, Raphinha linked to Spurs and Chelsea as well. We look like we're at the front of the queue for a lot of those players. I think a lot of it has been about our approach and us making them number one choices and being really desperate to get them. But I also think that they've been able to really convince players that this is the place that they should be. And what I've always really wanted from Edu is for him to have some sort of monopoly or some ability to bring in players that are South American. That's what I've always wanted. Like, I need you to be able to corner some type of market, something. I don't care what it is, but I need you to have a monopoly over it. And what he's showing in this window, if it were to come off, is that we would have an advantage in the American market, which I think when you look at the level of Brazil and Argentina, it's not a bad market to have cornered, is it? So I like that. I like that a lot. There's 611 of you guys in here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. EK says Raphinha for 60, Martinez for 40, Vieira for 30, Jesus for 45, Tielemans for 25. That is 200 million GBP. Is that possible? Well, when you think about the fact that you don't have to pay everything up front, I do think it makes it more possible. We also have really eliminated a lot of wages off the wage bill, and we're still going to sell some more players. Like, I did see that Pablo Marie is close to going to Hellas Verona. We will sell some players. We've already sold Guendouzi. There'll be some other players that get sold, but the Cronkies do need to back Mikel Arteta, and so we can see what we have with him as a manager. There needs to be some sort of like, you have your team, now what can you do with it? And so I think we've made a lot of maybe assumptions around what the window would look like, what the money looks like. With Europa League, you automatically get a little bit of a bump because you're going to get some additional funds there. So I do think that maybe the budget is around 150, but with other things coming into it, Europa League and maybe some sales, we could get it up to 200. But that's what it's going to take. Spurs are going to spend 200 million. Man United are going to spend 200 million. Chelsea are going to spend that amount. We have a lot of work to do. So we need to spend the money, especially after what happened in January. We dropped the ball, as far as I'm concerned. Like, I think we dropped the ball. I think it's okay to say that. So, yeah, we do need to kind of move forward and buy the players that are needed. It's now or never. Kondwani says the sales will make the required squad space and maybe fund a part of the transfers. I agree. Ben Odison says, I think the Tielemans deal will happen, to be honest. As for the players we're linked with, we get. C. Wilder says, Jess, you've got some numbers watching. Holy yeah, yesterday, you guys, I'm going to be honest. Like, yesterday when James was on and it was like 1,200 people watching, I instantly got so nervous. I was just like, I've never had this amount of people watching me. But it was amazing. And like the support I've been getting this summer has been insane. You guys are amazing. So thank you guys so much. Like, I do really appreciate it. 100%. GK says, do you see Raphinha as a starter over Saka on the right wing? Does Saka get a new role, possibly an 8? Me and James talked about this yesterday. I do really like, I think that show, like, I know it was my show, so it's kind of like, of course you think this, but the show that I did with James yesterday, I thought was one of the best shows that I've done, like, on the channel, like, by far. The insight that he gave was excellent, and I thought I held my weight. So I do think that, like, go back and watch that. We did talk about what we think what Saka's role is going to be, what's going to happen with Raphinha, how do we see the front line looking, how we use Vieira, things like that. Now, just in general, I do think there's an opportunity for Raphinha to start over Bukayo Saka. I said it on the terrace earlier. I think Raphinha is further along than Saka is. And I think you put Raphinha in a better team and he instantly becomes a better player. So maybe Saka has to battle it out with Raphinha again. There's plenty of minutes to go around. I'm not that worried about it at all. But maybe Saka does move to the left. I do think he's a little bit better on the left in terms of what he's doing finishing wise, because he doesn't have to try to get it back onto his left. He can, 2 of his best goals last season, one against Newcastle and one against Brentford, were both just left foot ping, like boom, and I do think he has a little bit more of that when he's able to kind of not have to think about switching it from one foot to another. That being said, I caveat that with saying that I think Saka is an amazing player. I think he's phenomenal and he's only going to get better. But I don't want to put him on a pedestal that he's not ready for. Like, he's a great young player right now and he has carried us. But if you put Raphinha in the team, I do think that Raphinha could start games in front of him. And for everybody that's kind of like, well, Saka had a better output, Saka was playing in a better team. Raphinha was playing for a team that was fighting relegation, and he also helped them stay out of being relegated. By the way, Saka was playing in a much better side. So, do I think Raphinha can start over Saka on the right wing? Yes. Do I anticipate them battling it out? Absolutely. Do I think that's what's best for Arsenal? Yeah, I do. Saka can also play 8. I just don't know if we'll see it next season, but I would like to see it. I think he's a really good left 8, kind of like in that left mid position. I do think he plays really well there because I think Saka has like vision as well. Like he can see passes and execute them. So for me, like Saka can play whatever position because he's just that good. But Raphinha, like, don't get it twisted. Raphinha is not coming to Arsenal to sit on Arsenal's bench behind Bukayo Saka. Like he's gonna push him and he may start games. Remember, this is a player that Arteta really wants as well. He really rates him. So, we have to keep that in mind. I'm going to just post in the chat and I'll pin it as well, the video with James. You guys watch it after. Don't leave here now. But I'm very proud of that video. Like very, very proud because I thought we did a really good job, to be honest. But don't leave now. If you guys leave now, I'll be really pissed. So I pinned it for you guys. Just got a super chat here from She Knows Football. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all your support for the channel. Sometimes you don't even say anything. You just put the super chat, which is really nice. But put something in there next time. Krishna says on creativity, vision, shooting, Saka is way better. Zach 10 says I agree with everything, but gonna miss that Odegaard Saka link up from last season. Only negative. I do think that like you'll still see it, but James and I also talked about what Odegaard's role might be moving forward. So take a look at that video, by the way. Santa says, first time being here, but I love it already. Big up, girl. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Everybody who's new, of course, there's always like the regulars here, but I love seeing new names pop up and hear what you guys have to say. So thank you so much for joining the channel. I really appreciate it. Elliot Osman says we should sign Tielemans and Lisandro Martinez 100%. I think we will. I think those will be the last 2 signings. I don't anticipate anything after, Tielemans is wrapped up. Like, I think that's our window, by the way. Raphinha, Jesus, Lisandro Martinez, Tielemans, and Vieira. That's the window. I would love to sign more players, but, like, I think that's the capacity unless something else were to happen. Let's see. Tom says, how much is the second bid? I think Arsenal will have to pay close to the same amount as Gunner legend Pepe. The second bid is 55 million plus 15 million in add-ons. That's in euros. So I think that's very close to pay what we paid for Pepe. And I think that's also why there's a little bit of like, like, oh my gosh, we're getting close to the Pepe fee. What if he flops? I think there's more of a predictable outcome with Raphinha because he's from the league. So there's that. Raheem Price says, honestly, Arsenal are overhyping most of these players. Like, which ones are overhyped? Which ones are overhyped? Like, which ones do you mean? Val says, first time being here and I really like, keep it up. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, you guys are amazing. Thank you. So that's pretty much it for like what I had planned for today. I do think that like, let me just make sure because I really do think that's all I had. Yeah, we went through Raphinha, Jesus, Tielemans, Ballard, Tavares, and Martinez. So let's keep it tight for today, just under an hour. Don't want to go too long. But I'll be back probably tomorrow to talk about the same stuff. I'm planning the show with Sophie for next week. Sophie should be on next week at some point. So we'll do another Kicking It with Sophie and Jess, more of like a discussion show than a news show. And then Diluted will be the week after. It's going to be kind of rotating, but it'll be on their channel. So just a heads up for that. If you guys just got here, finish off this show and then look at the pinned comment. I did a show with James B from AFTV and did a tactical analysis of kind of where Raphinha would fit in, Jesus and Vieira. And we also talked about Odegaard, Saka, and things like that. So check that out. And thank you so much, She Knows Football, again, for another really, really nice super chat. I really appreciate that. And I'll see you guys in the next one.